Lana Mitchell, 26, had always been the creative type. Ever since she was a teenager, she loved expressing herself through art, fashion, and especially her hair. As a natural blonde, she saw her long, flowing locks as a canvas, and over the years, she had experimented with countless shades and styles. Her current look, an ombre transitioning from blonde to light pink to deep burgundy at the ends, was her favorite yet. Her hair fell all the way down to her hips, healthy, thick, and styled in loose curls that gave her an effortlessly chic appearance. But Lana wasn't just about style, she had talent too. After graduating with honors in graphic design, she spent the last year freelancing and building a portfolio that she was proud of. When she landed an interview at one of the top design firms in the city, she felt like all her hard work had finally paid off. The day of the interview had been windy, and despite her efforts to tame her hair, the curls tangled as she hurried into the office. Her nerves were already high, but the way the hiring manager, Evelyn Moore, kept glancing at her hair made her even more self-conscious.
Lana Mitchell, thank you for coming in today,
Evelyn said with a tight smile. She was impeccably dressed in a navy blue pantsuit and had her dark hair pinned back in a sleek bun.
Your portfolio is impressive, and I think you'd be a great fit here.
But Lana's heart sank.
But what? Did I say something wrong?
She asked nervously, tucking a strand of pink hair behind her ear. Not at all, Evelyn reassured her, though her eyes lingered on Lana's ombre ends.
However, we do have certain policies about appearance. It's important to maintain a professional image here, and vibrant hair colors can be distracting.
She paused.
You'll need to either dye your hair to a more natural color or remove the dyed portions entirely. You have 1 week to comply.
Lana Mitchell felt her stomach drop.
1 week? And if I don't?
Then you'll receive a formal warning. 3 warnings result in disciplinary action and a permanent mark on your record with the company. Evelyn's tone was firm but not unkind. I don't want that to happen. I think you have a lot of potential here, but I need you to take this seriously. Lana left the interview both elated and devastated. She had gotten the Joburg dream job, but now faced a decision that felt impossible. Cutting her hair felt like losing a part of herself, but dyeing it all one color seemed so dull. Over the next week, she styled her hair in braids and buns, trying to hide the colors while she weighed her options. She spent hours scrolling through social media, looking at hairstyle inspiration. She even posted a poll asking her followers what they would do. The results were split, which didn't help her anxiety. Finally, Lana decided to visit her stylist, Emma, who had been cutting her hair since she was 16.
Emma Roberts. I'm desperate.
Lana said as she sat in the chair.
I have to either dye it all natural or cut it off. What do I do?
She ran her fingers nervously through her pink and burgundy ends. Emma Roberts crossed her arms.
Honestly, I hate both options. You love your color, and we've worked so hard to keep your length healthy. But if you have to choose, let's make it fun. Flip a coin. Heads, we cut. Tails, we dye.
Lana Mitchell took a deep breath and flipped the coin. It landed on heads. Cut it is, Emma said with a sigh. Are you ready? Lana wasn't sure she was, but she nodded anyway. Just do it before I change my mind. Emma turned her chair away from the mirror.
You sure about this? No, looking until it's done.
I'm sure, Lana said, gripping the armrests tightly. Emma started by sectioning off Lana's hair and securing the top layers. The first cut was the most dramatic sharp chop at shoulder length that sent nearly a foot of hair tumbling to the floor. Lana winced at the sound of the scissors but didn't dare speak. Emma continued trimming, shaping the hair into a French bob that skimmed Lana's earlobes. She added a small undercut at the nape for style and volume, then trimmed the bangs just above Lana's eyebrows. We're almost done, Emma said, her voice reassuring.
You're going to love it. I promise.
When Emma finally turned Lana around to face the mirror, Lana gasped. The sleek bob framed her face perfectly, and the undercut gave it a modern edge. It wasn't what she had expected, but it felt right.
Emma Roberts, this is amazing,
Lana said, running her fingers through the short layers.
I can't believe how much I love it.
Lana Mitchell stepped into her new workplace on a crisp Monday morning, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Today was her first day at the design firm, a culmination of years of hard work and a dramatic week of transformation. The sleek French bob Emma had given her felt liberating, even if she occasionally caught herself reaching for hair that wasn't there anymore. With a deep breath, she adjusted her blazer and smoothed the front of her dress, determined to make a great impression. The office buzzed with energy. Glass walls enclosed sleek workstations, and the faint hum of creativity filled the air. Evelyn Moore, the ever-composed manager, greeted her at the entrance.
Lana Michel, welcome aboard.
Evelyn said with a warm smile.
Let me show you around and introduce you to the team.
Lana nodded, her nerves settling slightly as they walked. Evelyn pointed out the break room, meeting spaces, and design hubs. The office's modern aesthetic resonated with Lana's artistic sensibilities, and she found herself admiring the minimalist decor and open layout. When they reached Lana's workstation, Evelyn paused. "This is your space," she said, gesturing to a desk near a large window. "It has a great view, and I thought you'd appreciate the natural light. If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask."
Thank you, Evelyn. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Lana replied, her voice steady. Before Evelyn could respond, a colleague approached.
Hi, I'm James.
He said, extending a hand.
Welcome to the team. I'm one of the senior designers here.
Nice to meet you, James.
Lana said, shaking his hand. Throughout the day, Lana immersed herself in onboarding sessions and getting to know her team. She was particularly drawn to a collaborative project that required brainstorming fresh ideas for a high-profile client. By lunchtime, she was already sketching concepts, her creative juices flowing. Later in the afternoon, Evelyn stopped by her desk.
Lana, I'm impressed with how quickly you're adapting. Your ideas for the client project are innovative.
Thank you, Evelyn. I'm just happy to contribute.
Lana replied, feeling a surge of pride. As the day wound down, Lana reflected on her journey. Cutting her hair had been a symbolic shedding of doubts and fears. Now, as she navigated her new role, she felt a renewed sense of confidence. The French bob had transformed more than her appearance, it had marked the beginning of a bold new chapter. By the time she left the office, the city lights were just beginning to glow. Lana smiled, ready to face whatever challenges and triumphs lay ahead. 5 months later, Lana Mitchell stood in front of her bathroom mirror, marveling at how quickly her hair had grown. The French bob had softened into a chic, jaw-length style, and the undercut was now hidden beneath a thick layer of hair. She felt like herself again, creative and confident. Her co-workers often complimented her growing locks, saying they added to her vibrant personality. One morning, as she walked into the office, her heart was light. She had recently landed her first big solo project and had impressed everyone with her unique vision. She felt like she was finally hitting her stride at the firm. That feeling didn't last long. By mid-morning, Evelyn Moore summoned her to the glass-walled office. Lana stepped inside, her palms slightly clammy from nerves. Evelyn sat behind her desk, her sharp gaze piercing as usual. "Lana Mitchell," Evelyn began, her tone colder than Lana had ever heard it. "I need to discuss something with you." Lana swallowed.
Of course, Evelyn. What's on your mind?
Evelyn leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms.
Your work has been excellent. You've exceeded expectations on every project.
Thank you.
Lana said cautiously, sensing a butt on the horizon. But Evelyn continued, her eyes narrowing.
Your hair has grown longer than is acceptable for the standards we discussed when you joined this firm.
Lana's heart sank.
My hair? I didn't think.
Evelyn raised a hand to silence her.
It's getting too long, Lana. Our clients value professionalism and consistency, and we must maintain a uniform appearance. You'll need to cut it back to the length we agreed upon when you started.
But Evelyn, Lana protested, her voice trembling.
It's still styled neatly. It's not distracting. Why does it have to be shorter?
Evelyn's expression hardened. This is not a negotiation. You have 2 days to comply, or I'll have to issue a formal warning. And Lana, let me remind you, 3 warnings lead to termination. Lana stood frozen, her stomach twisting. Evelyn's words were clinical, almost cruel, and her demeanor felt icy, devoid of any empathy. "I understand," Lana finally whispered, holding back tears as she left the office. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Lana avoided her co-workers, retreating into her work to keep from dwelling on the conversation. That evening, she called Emma, her stylist.
Emma, it's me again.
Lana said, her voice thick with emotion.
I need to cut my hair again. Evelyn's made it clear there's no other option.
Emma sighed on the other end of the line.
That woman sounds like a nightmare. Are you sure you want to stay in that job, Lana?
I don't know, Lana admitted, her voice breaking.
But I've worked so hard to get here. I can't just give up.
The next evening, Lana sat in Emma's chair once more. Let's do it, she said, her tone resigned. Emma turned her around, away from the mirror, just like before.
You're stronger than you think, Lana.
Lana said softly as Emma picked up the scissors. This time, Emma cut the hair even shorter than before, crafting a pixie cut that framed Lana's face elegantly. When she finally turned her around, Lana stared at her reflection. Her face looked sharper, her features more defined. It was bold, daring, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. This is stunning, Emma said, placing a hand on Lana's shoulder. You look powerful. Lana smiled weakly, trying to embrace the change.
Thanks, Emma. I guess I'll need to start getting used to being the short hair girl.
The next day, Evelyn didn't offer a single compliment on the haircut, just a curt nod of acknowledgement. But Lana didn't care. She had learned something about herself through the process. Her worth wasn't tied to her hair or her appearance. It was in her talent, her resilience, and her determination to succeed no matter the obstacles.
For the past 6 months, life had been feeling like a whirlwind for Vera, 22, a university art student with a deep love for old literature, horror films, and anything drenched in black velvet. Her slightly gothic style turned heads wherever she went. She always wore tight black corsets, short pleated skirts, and chunky lace-up boots. Her long black hair reached just past her breasts, slightly wavy and always neat with a thick fringe cut straight above her dark eyes. She loved her look. It gave her a sense of identity in a world she often found too loud. She had met Kane, 24, in one of her philosophy lectures the semester before. He was studying architecture and had a kind smile, tousled brown hair, and the kind of quiet humor she couldn't resist. Their relationship had been calm, comforting, though Kane's family had always intrigued her. Kane's mother, Ma, 47, had divorced long ago and lived alone in a modest but stylish villa on the outskirts of town. She worked from home as a freelance editor, always polished, always sharp-tongued, but never cruel. Her hairstyle reflected that energy. She had always worn a very short pixie, sharp and clean, like something off a Paris runway, similar to Anne Hathaway's iconic look. But it had been 3 months since her last cut, and the once perfect crop had grown into a soft, wild mop, curling and puffing in every direction. Ma didn't like salons. She preferred calling her trusted hairdresser, Mr. Johnson, 55, a soft-spoken professional with silver hair and a perfectly ironed black shirt, who carried his tools in a sleek leather suitcase and made house visits exclusively for his long-term clients. On one humid morning in early June, Ma called Kane with a favor. "I'm having Johnson come over on Saturday," she said.
"I need the house cleaned up before he starts. Can you and your girlfriend help me?"
Kane had looked over at Vera, who was sipping her black coffee slowly, reading a volume of The Picture of Dorian Gray. She nodded before he even finished the sentence. On Saturday afternoon, the sun was already high when they arrived at Ma's white-walled villa. The scent of lavender and lemon polish drifted from the open windows. "Finally," Ma said, opening the door in black linen trousers and a beige sleeveless blouse. Her black hair fluffed wildly around her head.
Come in. Come in, it's hot as hell, and I want this place tidy before he gets here."
Vera stepped inside, her usual outfit gleaming dark against the sunlight. A black corset trimmed with lace, a short ruffled skirt, fishnet stockings, and platform boots. She pulled her hair back loosely, already sweating under the warm sun. Ma gestured to the broom and mop leaning against the kitchen wall.
"Kane, you sweep. Vera, you mop. I'll be in the kitchen with Johnson once he gets here.
Got it, said Kane, grabbing the broom. Vera walked into the kitchen and froze for a second. A large block salon chair stood right in the center of the tiled floor, like a throne out of place. The rest of the kitchen was clean and sunny. Yellow cabinets, a wide wooden table, and white curtains fluttering near the window. But that chair, she blinked and said nothing, just filled the bucket with warm water and floor soap and began mopping quietly. Then the doorbell rang. Ma's voice echoed.
That's him.
She stepped up quickly and returned moments later with Mr. Johnson, dressed as always in a crisp dark white dress shirt tucked into black trousers. Hair perfectly combed back, he carried his suitcase confidently.
Oh, Johnson, this is Vera. She's my sister-in-law.
Vera turned with a slight smile, wiping her hands on a towel.
Nice to meet you,
said Mr. Johnson, politely, then paused as he looked at Vera's thick jet black hair.
Do we have 2 appointments today?
Vera laughed softly, stepping back.
No, I'm just here to help clean.
A shame. He smiled gently. With that hair, well...
It's beautiful.
Vera nodded awkwardly, still clutching the towel. Ma sank into the salon chair with a dramatic sigh, waving a hand through her hair.
So, the same cut as usual?
He asked. Yes, Ma replied, crossing her arms under the cape. But I'm open to something a little different. I trust your hands. I was thinking, he said as he attached a 15mm guard to his clipper, we could try starting from the top this time, a bit fresher for the summer. Ma grinned. Go for it. Vera stood to the side, mop in hand, watching. The clippers hummed to life. Mr. Johnson gently placed his hand on Ma's forehead, tilting her head back slightly. Then he brought the clippers down the center of her skull. From forehead to nape, a thick tuft of black hair fell to the cape with a soft thud. Ma closed her eyes. She's murmured, still smooth. Kane peeked in from the living room, broom in hand, watching. The clippers continued working from the crown outward. Strands rained down, some curling as they landed, others long and soft. The kitchen floor slowly filled with hair. Vera couldn't take her eyes off it. You're doing great, Ma, Mr. Johnson said. Ma chuckled. I love this part. It's like therapy. Once the top and sides were buzzed down evenly, Mr. Johnson switched to scissors and a clipper with no guard. Moving in closer to shape the crop, he worked quickly but precisely, tapering the sides, sharpening the neckline. The back of Ma's neck appeared clean and smooth. Finally, he rubbed a bit of styling wax between his hands, then ran his fingers through the tiny layers, adding some subtle texture. A few spritzes of hairspray, and it was done. He removed the cape of the flourish and handed her a mirror. Ma studied herself with a smirk. That's the one. She ran her fingers over the new pixie. Short sculpted sides, slightly tousled on top, just enough to show movement but no fluff. Feels like summer again. Vera looked down at the mop. Her own thick hair brushed against her ribs. She touched it, uncertain why she suddenly felt so aware of it. As Ma admired her fresh pixie in the mirror, her fingers tracing the short strands along her temples, Vera remained near the kitchen counter, her eyes fixed not on the mop, but on the soft black clumps scattered across the floor. They looked so weightless, almost like feathers. The kitchen smelled faintly of hairspray and lavender, strangely calming. Mr. Johnson began to pack up his tools with methodical grace.
Wiping each item clean and placing it back into the suitcase one by one.
He glanced towards Vera again as he closed the lid. You're sure you don't want to try something new? He asked gently. Even a trim could lighten the weight in this heat. Vera hesitated, then gave a small nervous laugh.
I think I'd rather melt than lose a strand.
Ma raised an eyebrow.
Oh, come on, Vera. You'd look stunning with a sharp cut. You've got the cheekbones for it.
Vera flushed slightly, brushing her long fringe to the side.
I've had this hair forever. It's kind of me.
Kane walked in from the hallway holding the broom in one hand and a smirk on his face. You say that like you're carved from obsidian. She's almost is. Ma said with a grin, still admiring herself in the mirror. But obsidian could use a polish sometimes. Vera chuckled, then shifted her eyes back toward the clippers on the table, the blade still slightly warm. Mr. Johnson caught the glance.
It doesn't have to be drastic. I've seen a lot of girls go from long to short and absolutely shine afterward.
Vera cleared her throat.
I appreciate that, really. But no, I just came to help clean.
Mr. Johnson nodded, his voice calm.
Of course, no pressure at all.
But the conversation lingered, like the scent of hair product in the warm air. Even after Mr. Johnson left and Ma swept her hands through her new crop again, there was something left unsaid hanging in the room. As Kane took the broom to gather the fallen strands, Vera crouched beside the mop bucket, wringing out the dirty water. She caught her reflection in the oven door, her long black hair spilling down, her thick fringe nearly touching her eyebrows. Ma, still sitting on the black chair, spoke casually. "You know, Vera," she said, twirling her fork, "I had hair just like yours at your age." Vera looked over her shoulder.
Really?
It made me feel strong, mysterious. Then one summer, I was so frustrated with it, always sticking to my back, getting in my mouth when the wind blew. I told my hairdresser to take it all off.
She smiled.
Best decision I ever made.
I saw my face for the first time in years. Vera was quiet. Kane walked over to her.
You okay?
She nodded.
Yeah, just thinking.
You don't have to do anything, he said, lowering his voice, but I think you'd look great no matter what. Vera gave him a shy glance, then returned to cleaning.
But in her mind, something had shifted. She could still hear the sound of the clippers, still see the pieces of hair falling in slow motion. A part of her was repelled, and another strangely curious. Later that evening, after the house was spotless and the sunlight had faded from gold to violet, Ma invited them to stay for dinner. The three of them sat at the table in the kitchen, the black chair now back in the corner. Mr. Johnson long gone. As they ate grilled vegetables and pasta, Ma leaned in. "You know, Vera," she said, twirling her fork, "sometimes change doesn't come when you're ready for it. It just shows up and dares you to follow." Vera smiled, looking down at her plate. "That sounds like something out of a movie." Ma shrugged. "Maybe, but it's true." After dinner, Vera went to the bathroom to wash her hands. She caught her reflection again. The thick fringe, the dark waves. She stared for a long time. When she returned, she looked toward Ma. "Do you think if I ever decided to cut it, would he come here again?" Ma didn't answer right away. She smiled.
I'm sure he'd make time.
It was a bright Thursday afternoon when Claire and Emily, happily strolling down Main Street, found themselves stopping in front of the old barber shop. As they passed by, they couldn't help but notice Mr. Nathan through the dusty window, sitting quietly with a newspaper in his hand, his face obscured by the page. His presence was familiar, yet oddly distant, a man whose silence had been swallowed by years of sorrow. The barbershop had been around for a long time, but people didn't remember Mr. Nathan for his friendliness, they remembered him for his silence, which had lasted for years. 10 years ago, his wife, who always had a birthmark on her face, passed away. She suffered from severe depression, was mocked and bullied, which made it unbearable for her. One day, she jumped from the upstairs window of the barbershop. Since then, Mr. Nathan had never spoken again. Only silence remained, enveloping him and the barbershop. The two women paused, exchanging mischievous glances. Emily, bolder than Claire, nudged her and smiled slyly.
"There he is,"
Emily whispered, her voice dripping with sarcasm.
"the mute barber."
Claire chuckled lightly.
"I bet he's reading last week's paper."
Feeling emboldened by the lack of response, Emily called out loudly,
"Mr. Nathan, no customers today? Guess no one trusts you anymore, huh?"
Mr. Nathan didn't react. He merely glanced up, giving them a brief look before returning to his paper. Emily's laughter filled the air as the two walked away, leaving behind a red-faced Nathan, his head bowed, swallowing their mockery in silence. The following afternoon, Claire and Emily returned. This time, they stood right outside the shop window. Emily wore a mischievous grin.
"Let's really push it today."
Emily chuckled.
"Let's see if he cries."
"You're evil."
Claire laughed, though her smile betrayed her enjoyment. They stood right outside, mocking Nathan's trembling hands, making fun of the outdated haircuts he still offered. Nathan, however, remained unfazed, but his face grew redder with every word. Then, unexpectedly, something happened. Nathan stood up, walked over to the door, and locked it. The sign above the door flipped from open to closed.
What are you doing?
Emily shouted, her voice filled with surprise. Nathan's voice, low and hoarse, sliced through the tension like a sharp blade.
You had your fun. Now it's my turn.
Before either of them could react, Nathan lunged. In an instant, he grabbed Claire's wrist and pulled her inside.
Let go of me.
Claire screamed, but Nathan's grip was like iron. He forced her into the barber chair, leather straps tightly binding her arms. Emily rushed to stop him, but Nathan quickly turned and slammed her into another chair. His left hand pressed down on her shoulder, while his right grabbed the leather strap binding her tightly to the chair.
Sit still,
Nathan commanded, his voice cold and firm. Emily struggled, trying to break free, but the chair was bolted to the ground. She realized she was powerless to escape, and then the nightmare began. Nathan took the shiny red barber's cape and wrapped it tightly around Claire's neck.
Stop! What are you doing?
Claire panicked, but Nathan didn't answer. He secured the cape with meticulous precision.
This is to catch the air,
he whispered, his voice disturbingly calm. Claire's face drained of color.
No! Please! I beg you!
But it was too late. Nathan switched on the clippers. The buzzing sound filled the shop, like the growl of a wild beast.
No! Please don't!
Claire screamed, but Nathan brought the clippers to the back of her head and shaved off a long strip of her dark hair. Locks of black hair tumbled like dying leaves. Claire's screams and pleas fell on deaf ears. Stroke by stroke, he shaved her head clean. The floor was soon covered in hair. Claire was completely bald.
Stand up,
Nathan ordered coldly. Shaking, Claire stood, her hands instinctively clutching her bare scalp frozen in humiliation and horror. Nathan turned to Emily, his gaze unwavering.
Your turn.
No, please.
Emily shrieked, tugging at her strapped wrist, but it held firm. Nathan didn't respond. He walked over, unfastened the strap, but before Emily could escape, he grabbed her and slammed her back into the chair. She thrashed, kicking and screaming, but she couldn't break free. The red cape was once again wrapped around her neck. Her blonde hair was exposed, vulnerable.
We're sorry. We swear we'll never do it again.
Emily sobbed, but Nathan remained silent. He switched on the clippers. The buzzing sound returned. Emily froze. One by one, the cold blades stripped away her hair. Strands fell like snowflakes.
You've humiliated us enough!
Emily cried.
I told you, I'm not done,
Nathan replied flatly. He applied shaving cream to her scalp and pulled out a straight razor. With smooth, deliberate strokes, he shaved her head until it gleamed like glass. Nathan ran his hand over her polished scalp. There, all clean. Emily, now bald, sobbed uncontrollably.
You're sick. Please, let us go.
Nathan tilted his head, looking at her coldly.
I don't think so. We've just begun.
He yanked the cape off her and without hesitation shoved a broom into her hand.
Today, you work for me.
Emily, broken and humiliated, obeyed. She began sweeping the hair from the floor her own and Claire's in silence. But Nathan wasn't finished. He pulled Claire back into the chair, his eyes gleaming darkly.
I'm not done teaching you.
He smiled faintly. Once again, the clippers buzzed to life. And so, that afternoon, in a barbershop filled with stillness, two women in their 30s were forced to sweep their own hair off the floor. Their heads were shaved clean, their dignity shattered. In that silence, louder than any words, they learned a lesson they would never forget. As they left the barbershop, Claire and Emily were no longer the women who had mocked Nathan just a day before. The lesson had been taught, not with words, but with silence and a sharp blade. And in that silence, louder than any laughter, they realized the cost of their cruelty. Nathan may have been silent, but in the end, it was his quiet revenge that spoke the loudest.
London, early winter. The city was cloaked in leaden gray, damp, cold, and solitary. A fine drizzle fell, as if time itself was slowing down for something unspoken. Among the hurried crowds at Paddington Station, a figure stood still as a statue. Emily Rivers, 23 years old, tall and thin, with skin pale from lack of sunlight. Her long chestnut hair was hastily tied at the nape of her neck. A few strands escaped, wet with rain, clinging to her cheek. She wore an old backpack with frayed straps, her train ticket trembling slightly in her cold hand, her face delicate but drained of all color. Her gray eyes stared blankly at the railway tracks, aimless, empty, no sorrow, no anger, just nothing left to hold on to. She had once been a literary editor, loved classical literature, adored Sylvia Plath and Virginia Woolf, and lived alone in a small Bloomsbury apartment filled with old books. But 6 weeks ago, her mother died in a car accident. Since then, Emily stopped answering emails, locked her social media accounts, and quit her job. She lived like a ghost. Then one morning, without telling anyone, she booked a one-way ticket out of London, as if fleeing from herself. The train pulled out of the station. Through the rain-streaked window, patchy fields rolled by. Withered grass, broken fences, black crows soaring into the mist. Emily sat alone. Her gray sweater was pulled up to her neck, her hands clasped, hugging herself. Her gaze followed the streaks of rainwater on the glass, as if tracing her own inescapable thoughts. Destination, Lake District. Not for vacation, but to disappear. A secluded forest community known as the Path of Light. No real names, no internet, no phones, no mirrors, only meditation, candlelight, silence, and Jonathan, the man known as the Shepherd. Emily had found the place through a handwritten flyer in a cafe. It promised something she couldn't quite say out loud. Let go of the past, step into the light, rebirth of the self. She didn't believe it, but she had nothing left to lose. The wooden cabin sat tucked into the edge of the forest, lit only by flickering candlelight. No TV, no electricity. Everything was simple, as if time had stopped. Jonathan, 34, tall with light brown hair, deep-set eyes, and a voice like honey poured into dusk, took Emily walking around Lake Windermere. The water was still, like a mirror of memory. They didn't speak much, only walked, but every glance, every silence made Emily feel seen. By the firelight, Jonathan said,
"My younger brother hanged himself. I survived, and I found the light."
Emily listened silently, her heart aching. Meals were taken in silence. Everyone meditated for hours in the wooden hall. When Jonathan asked her to surrender her devices, she hesitated, then agreed. Slowly, she detached from her old life, even from her sister, the only person who remained in her world. And every time she faltered, Jonathan would simply whisper,
"Fear is a sign you are about to step into truth."
Full moon night, the pine forest held its breath. Wind swept through the branches, cold and whispering. Inside the ritual room, hundreds of white candles flickered, casting a pale, flickering glow. No electricity, no music, only thick incense in the air, clinging to the stone walls, to the robes, to the hair. A round mat lay in the center, coarse brown fabric rimmed with salt. At its center, a tall wooden chair and a silver electric shaver, placed ceremonially, like an offering. Emily entered slowly, barefoot, in a long white robe, head bowed, her hair falling down her shoulders. The devotees sat in a circle, silent, eyes closed, hands over their hearts. The candlelight made their faces appear pale, surreal. The whole scene resembled something ancient, part ritual, part sacrifice. Jonathan approached. He was barefoot, cloaked in gray, holding a bowl of sacred water. His face was calm, eyes deep, but Emily no longer felt safe. When he placed his hand on her shoulder, she flinched, not from cold,
but because her intuition whispered, "Something is wrong," Jonathan leaned in close and whispered,
Hair is memory. It is the shell of the self, the last thread that binds you to sorrow.
He nodded, and a female devotee stepped forward, her eyes void of emotion, and turned on the shaver. A sharp buzzing sound filled the room. No one moved, but the air suddenly grew colder, like a knife waiting to cut. Emily opened her eyes. Everyone else remained still. Their eyes closed. Only she was awake and afraid. She started to rise. Jonathan gently kept his hand on her shoulder. His voice was soft, but not kind.
If you walk away now, you will forever remain outside the circle of light.
Emily froze. The first lock of hair dropped to the floor. It wasn't just hair. It was the last remaining trace of the person she used to be. She trembled, cold, confused.
I don't know,
she whispered. Jonathan tightened his grip slightly and said,
You are not afraid. It is the ego struggling to die. That is how you know you are close to rebirth.
The shaver buzzed on. Long strands of her hair were pulled away and fell onto her robe. Emily closed her eyes, not in surrender, but from exhaustion. A single tear slid down her cheek and landed on Jonathan's hand resting on her forehead. She knew she hadn't truly consented, but all the eyes around her, though closed, were waiting. She was the ritual, the symbol, the belief. When the blade passed over her scalp for the final time, clearing the last strand of hair, something inside her shattered. Jonathan touched her bald head, softly like a benediction.
Welcome to the light.
The room chanted in unison, but Emily heard none of it. She looked at her hand, clutching a small piece of hair, and knew she'd just lost something that could never be reclaimed. Early morning, fog in the air. The wooden room was damp and cold. The smell of spent candles and incense lingered. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, hunched, hands clenched in her lap. On the wall, a foggy mirror reflected her new image. Bald, with blotchy scalp and swollen eyes. She looked, turned away, then looked again. She couldn't help it. She needed to see. She couldn't believe it was real. She knelt, lifted the floorboards. An old phone wrapped in cloth, hidden like hope, lay beneath. She turned it on with trembling hands. The screen lit up. 78 missed calls. The first message read,
Emily, please answer. That place is being investigated for religious manipulation. They call it a spiritual rehabilitation camp. You have to leave immediately.
Behind her, the door creaked open. Jonathan entered. Linen robe, warm tea, soft voice.
Your first day in your new form, he said gently. Feels like rebirth, doesn't it?
Emily stood up, didn't take the tea. She looked at him. For the first time, truly looked at him. It was all performance, every smile, every move. She tightened her robe, her voice cracked, but struck.
No, it feels like being flayed alive without being at.
Jonathan paused, then smiled again. She stepped forward, eyes sharp.
You didn't heal me, Jonathan. You took my wounds and turned them into chains.
Silence, candlelight flicker.
You call it light, but it's just a prison with the lights on.
A flash of lightning outside. No thunder, only Jonathan's soft sigh. He placed the teacup down slowly, but his hands clenched white. She didn't flinch. What you call faith, she whispered, is just fear of abandonment wrapped in a sermon. Jonathan didn't respond, but in his eyes something had changed. No longer the healer, but the predator. The shadows lengthened. His posture shifted. Not a guide, but a tyrant on the edge.
You think you're the first to run? He snapped. They always come back. No one wants them out there. You'll disappear. A nobody.
Emily's voice trembled, but she stood tall.
I don't need to be wanted. I just need to leave.
Jonathan shouted. The teacup shattered. scalding her robe. She didn't blink.
You leave, he snarled. You lose everything. No light, no darkness, just emptiness.
Emily's voice was quiet, firm. Better than staying here and losing myself. Jonathan turned, but his eyes now burned, no longer calm, but dangerous. Late at night, Jonathan sat in his room, yellow light casting dust. He opened the black notebook. Inside, a list of names. Last page, Emily, under suspicion. He picked up the phone, voice quiet.
She's starting to waver. Don't interfere. Watch her. Tell no one.
Outside, rain fell. Daniel, the loyal devotee, stood waiting. He nodded. 2:41 a.m. Emily crawled out the meditation window. No shoes, no hair, a bundle in her hands, her phone and notebook. She ran through the forest. Branches ripped her robe. Fear drove her. Footsteps. She turned. Daniel, eyes blink.
Emily, come back. It's not too late.
You'll tie me up? Drag me back?
She asked.
You won't survive.
He said.
There's no one waiting for us.
Emily laughed, bitter. And here, a bald head and no self left. Daniel blinked, then dropped his radio.
Run,
he whispered. She ran. Sirens blinked. Flashlights surged. She fell, got up, blood on her knees, still ran. The forest opened. A foggy road. A truck. An old driver sipping coffee. He saw her.
do you need help?
She nodded, crying.
Please, just take me away.
He opened the door. Get in. Don't look back. She did. She moved. The cult disappeared. She had left everything behind. Jonathan, the rituals, her hair, her faith, herself. 6:17 a.m. A roadside cafe. Old jazz music. Emily sat alone in the corner. Still bald. Still silent. Her fingers wrapped around a cup of tea. On the table, her notebook. She opened it and wrote, "Letting go isn't vanishing. It's surviving. Choosing yourself, even when broken." A waitress placed a napkin beside her. No questions. No stares. Emily touched her scalp. The skin gleamed, a wound unhealed. Still breathing. She breathed in. Not peace, not joy, but something better. Freedom for the first time, and finally her own.
Angela Ward lived on the third floor of a building that time had forgotten. No one knocked. Her apartment was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that sinks into the walls, seeps into the furniture, and wraps itself around your breath like dust you forgot to notice. Inside, the remnants of a former life waited an easel leaning in the corner, abandoned mid-sketch, a palette hardened with forgotten paint, a stack of children's drawings, faded and curling at the edges. And on the wall, a clock that no longer ticked, stuck forever at... Angela used to be an elementary school art teacher. Her voice was gentle, her presence calming. Her hair long and brown used to fall in soft waves over her shoulders as she knelt beside small desks to help with crooked lines and wild colors. She had once known the names of every child in her class, their favorite animals, their dreams. But now she lived alone, quietly, entirely. No one came to visit. No one called. No one asked if she was okay. The only sounds came from the children below, echoes from the playground, where tiny feet scuffed against concrete and laughter bounced between rusted swings. Sometimes, one of them would point up toward her shadow behind the curtain and whisper, like passing along a legend. "That's where the witch lives." Angela never answered. She didn't flinch, didn't get angry, didn't even blink. She simply sat in her chair day after day, wrapped in a worn gray sweater that hung loosely off her shoulders like fog. Her hands rested on her lap. Her gaze remained fixed always on the 5th floor. The window just above hers, the Hayes apartment. She never looked away. Because Angela Ward listened, always. She listened when no one else did. She listened because silence, to her, had become more familiar than sound. And somewhere inside that silence, she waited. Angela Ward had once thought about cutting her hair, not out of impulse, not for style, just a quiet urge that came and went like a ghost standing at her shoulder, waiting. She never gave in, because deep down, she knew once she did it, once the scissors touched that first lock, there would be no turning back. She didn't fear the change in appearance. She feared what it would mean. When she was 10 years old, she had watched her father grab her mother by the hair and slam her head into the kitchen wall. The air had smelled like burnt rice and boiled bones. The reason for the violence was simple. Dinner had gone cold. That was all it took. Angela remembered her mother holding her tight afterward, trembling, whispering with lips pressed to her ear.
If anything happens, be quiet. Don't cause trouble.
And Angela did exactly that, for the rest of her life. Years later, her mother would die of a stroke, collapsing in the middle of their small living room like a marionette whose strings had been cut. Angela had been there, just 3 meters away. Sitting on the edge of the couch, she didn't move, didn't call for help, didn't scream. She sat there, frozen, and did nothing. Not out of ignorance, but out of programming. Because silence wasn't just a habit, it was her inheritance. From that moment on, she let her hair grow long, soft, brown, familiar. It became the last connection she had left to her mother. Cutting it would have meant severing that tether. And she wasn't ready, not yet. The Hayes family lived directly above her. Every weekend, their apartment filled with noise, not the kind that made you sigh, but the kind that made your chest tighten. Clinking glass, raised voices. Then, suddenly, silence so dense it felt like someone had stuffed cotton into the walls. A silence that didn't come from peace, but from something being held down. Angela never knocked, never called. She just listened, because that was what she knew how to do best. Then came the night. The clock read 9:14 p.m. A scream sliced through the ceiling, so raw, so sharp, it felt like it had torn the wallpaper from the walls. Angela stood up. Instinct. Reflex. Her breath caught in her throat. Then Robert Hayes. His voice boomed down through the vent, muffled but unmistakably violent.
Don't leave me, Linda. I swear to God, and take another step.
Angela froze. Then Linda's voice, trembling, soft, almost inaudible beneath his fury.
Please, calm down, Robert. Daniel is in the other room.
A crash echoed through the ceiling. Something heavy. Maybe a chair. Maybe a body. And then a different voice. Daniel. Frantic. Breaking.
Let her go. You can't do this anymore.
Another thud. A pause. The kind of pause that wraps around your spine like ice. Then nothing. Followed by a new sound. Not a scream. Not a sob. Something final. Something dry. Like a stone dropped from 5 stories up. Like a skull cracking open on concrete. Angela's knees buckled, and she screamed. For the first time in years after, a lifetime of swallowing every sound she ever wanted to make her throat opened, and a scream tore out of her, raw and unfiltered. It didn't last long, but it was enough. Enough to shake the dust off the silence. Enough to make her visible. Because from that moment on, Angela Ward was no longer just a woman sitting behind a curtain. She had become a witness. The police arrived within minutes. Angela watched them from behind her curtain, not in fear, but in the same quiet way she'd observed the world for years. Detached, present, uninvited. Blue and red lights pulsed against her walls. Shadows of boots and batons moved across the pavement below. Upstairs, the door to the Hayes apartment opened with a shudder. Footsteps, radios, cold, professional voices. The hallway camera? Broken. No footage. No evidence. Linda Hayes sat on the edge of the sofa, unmoving. Daniel shaking, his knuckles red, face pale stood behind her like a soldier who'd survived the wrong war. Angela stepped into the hallway, gently, like stepping into a memory she wasn't sure belonged to her. A young officer turned to her. Clipboard in hand, blank face. Officer, polite, rehearsed.
Ma'am, you said you live right below?
She nodded. And you say you heard an altercation? Angela spoke softly, but without hesitation.
I heard him scream. I heard the glass shatter. Then I heard her choking, and I heard the boy trying to stop him.
The officer glanced up at the ceiling, then back at his partner. Officer.
And you said you heard arguing? Did you see anything? Is there any video, audio, anything we can work with? We'll take your statement, ma'am.
She shook her head once. Angela, quietly.
But I hear everything. Every weekend, every scream, every silence.
The officer offered a polite nod that didn't quite reach his eyes. Officer, we'll make a note of your statement, ma'am. That was all. They didn't dismiss her. They didn't believe her. They just moved on. Later, in the mailroom, someone whispered behind her back just loud enough to be heard. Neighbor, female, hushed. She's not stable, you know, since her mother died. Talks to herself. Watches people from the balcony. You can't trust that kind of person. The words weren't shouted, but they echoed. Angela didn't respond. She simply walked back up the stairs, slowly, silently. Back in her apartment, she didn't sit, didn't drink water, didn't cry. She walked to the drawer, opened it, and pulled out an old pair of scissors dull, rusted, stained with time. She stared at them for a long moment, then gripped her hair and began to cut. Not carefully, not with grace. She tore at it, clumps at a time, jagged chunks falling to the floor, some landing on her bare feet, others clinging to her sweater. Her breathing grew louder, not out of panic, but out of something deeper, something ancient. Punishment. Not from the world, but from herself. Every cut felt like peeling back a layer of memory. Every strand a voice she hadn't raised. Every uneven edge, a silence that killed something important. She lifted the scissors one more time and whispered, "Then let them see me." The morning after the scream, after the scissors, after the fragments of herself lay scattered across her apartment floor, Angela pulled on a gray knit hat, slipped into her coat, and walked out the door. She didn't lock it. She didn't look back. Outside, the street was damp from last night's rain. A low fog clung to the edges of the buildings, like something waiting to be named. Angela walked slowly, past closed shops, shuttered cafes, and windows covered in posters no one read anymore. At the end of the block stood a tiny salon, the kind that had survived 3 rent increases and 2 owners. Its windows were fogged. The sign above the door read Mika's hair in faded blue lettering. Angela stepped inside. The bell above the door rang softly. It was the only sound. Inside, everything smelled faintly of bleach and warm metal. The lights flickered overhead, not from disrepair, but from age. A single barber's chair stood in the middle of the room. A mirror the size of a small door faced it. Behind the counter, Mika turned. An older woman, hair in a tight bun, apron dusted with stray clippings. She looked up from her broom. Her eyes met Angela's. There was no shock, no judgment, just recognition. A long silence passed between them before Mika spoke. Mika, quiet, neutral. "Want me to clean it up?" Angela removed her hat. Slowly. Tufts of jagged hair stuck out at awkward angles. A patch near her temple was almost bald. Her scalp, pale and exposed, shimmered faintly under the fluorescent light. She nodded once. Angela, soft, resolute.
Number, not clean, all over, stripped, no trace.
Mika didn't ask why. She simply gestured to the chair. Angela sat. The vinyl squeaked beneath her. The mirror in front of her felt impossibly large. Mika approached, set down her broom, and picked up the clippers. Before turning them on, she rested a hand on Angela's headlight, steady, as if to measure the weight of what she was about to remove. She ran her fingers over the uneven patches, the scars that weren't visible. The breath Angela had been holding finally escaped.
Want me to cut your hair? Ready?
The clippers buzzed to life, a sound both mechanical and ancient. Mika began. Strip by strip, the remnants of Angela's past fell away. Each pass of the blade revealed more skin, more shape, more truth. No conversation. No music. Only the sound of shedding. Angela stared at herself in the mirror. First with hesitation. Then with clarity. No hair, no layers, no excuses. Just the woman underneath. And for the first time in years, she didn't look away. Angela sat in the stillness of her apartment. The same chair, the same light, but everything had changed. The air felt different, now cleaner, sharper. Her scalp tingled with every current of breeze that passed through the open window. She could feel the temperature of the room on her skin in a way she never had before. It wasn't just her hair that was gone. It was something deeper. She walked slowly into the bathroom. No light but the one above the mirror, harsh, white, surgical. It cast no mercy, only truth. Her reflection met her like a stranger. Bare scalp, pale, soft stubble already beginning to return. Eyes ringed with fatigue, yet steady unblinking. Her features no longer shielded by softness. No veil, no distraction. Angela touched her head. The skin was smooth, slightly cool, unfamiliar. She trailed her fingers along the curve of her skull as if rediscovering the shape of herself. No more hair. No more armor. Just what was left behind. And yet, in that cold clarity, something began to rise. A memory. Not loud, but persistent. Not dramatic, but surgical. Her mother collapsing in the middle of the living room floor. Her hand trembling, reaching. Her eyes bleeding. Angela had been 3 meters away, close enough to see it all. And she had turned away. Not because she was afraid, but because she was angry. She had been angry that her mother stayed, that she never left the man who broke her down year after year. Angry that the woman she loved more than anything had taught her how to endure, but not how to say no. How to disappear, but not how to resist. How to survive, but not how to live. Angela had watched her die in silence, offering nothing but stillness. If anything happens, her mother had once whispered, just stay quiet, don't cause trouble. So she did. Angela had obeyed right up to the moment it killed the only person who had ever protected her. That obedience had curdled into resentment, and resentment into guilt, a guilt so old it had calcified into her bones. A quiet sentence no court had handed down, but one she had served nonetheless. For years, she had carried it behind her eyes, in the slope of her shoulders, in every nod, every silence, every time she swallowed what should have been a scream. And now, every time she heard someone dismiss a cry for help, every time she heard footsteps stop short of stepping in, she saw it again. Her mother and herself, trapped, repeating. Angela didn't shave her head to rebel. She didn't do it to shock. She didn't do it to speak. She did it to atone, to carve a truth into her skin that words could never carry, to mark herself so that the next time she stood before a room that didn't want to listen, they would have no choice but to look. She had been silent her whole life, but now her silence had shape, and it was bald, unflinching, and staring back from the mirror. The police report was filed. The papers were stamped. The neighbors closed their doors, and Daniel stayed in custody. Linda said nothing, and the silence returned. Not because things were settled, but because people were tired. Angela knew this kind of silence well. It wasn't peace, it was surrender. She sat alone in her apartment now, colder with every passing day, hair gone, face bare, no mask left to wear. She stared at the wall, at the shadow of herself cast by the light of a single desk lamp. Her phone lay on the table, unlocked, camera open. She stared at it for a long time, fingers trembling just slightly enough to betray the weight of what she was about to do. No makeup, no filter, no lighting setup. Just the harsh ambient hum of the room. Just her. A single chair. A blank wall behind her. And a front-facing camera that saw too much. She hit record. At first, she just breathed, slowly, audible, the way someone breathes when they're choosing truth over safety. Then she spoke, Angela, to camera, calm, direct, unblinking.
My name is Angela Ward. I live below the Hayes. I heard Robert Hayes attack my wife. I heard Linda gasp. I heard Daniel try to stop it. And I heard a man fall from the 5th floor and hit the ground like he deserved it.
She paused. Her hands clenched tightly in her lap white, knuckled.
You don't believe me, do you? Because I live alone? Because I didn't smile at you in the hallway? Because I shaved my head, and now I look like something you don't want to see?
She leaned in slightly. Eyes narrowed not with anger, but with precision.
Then look at me. Look at my face. Look into my eyes. And tell me I'm lying.
She stopped the recording. No edits. No second take. She uploaded it. And waited. The video spread like wildfire. Not because it was polished. Not because it was sensational. But because it was raw. Because it was human. Because for once, someone wasn't asking for attention. She was demanding to be heard. The press called her the woman who shaved her head for the truth. Some people mocked her. Others praised her. But most just watched in silence. Exactly the way they always had. And then something shifted. The case was reopened. The testimony reevaluated. The evidence reviewed. Daniel Hayes was declared innocent. Linda cried in court. Not because her husband was gone, but because someone had finally said out loud what she was never allowed to. Angela wasn't there that day. She didn't need to be. She sat on her balcony 3rd floor, wrapped in a threadbare blanket, sipping cold tea, watching as the sun dipped behind the buildings. Below her, the place where Robert's body had landed was now covered in small flower pots, plastic, mismatched, unremarkable. But still, alive. Angela closed her eyes, not to sleep, just to feel what silence was like, when it no longer meant guilt. For once, it felt like peace.
Before everything changed, her life was quietly dull. A kind of paralyzing stillness, the kind of slow rhythm where you forget what day it is. Not because you're relaxed, but because every day feels the same. Her name was Maya. She was 40, lived alone in an old apartment on the outskirts of Texas. Peeling walls, crumbling tiles. The hum of the air conditioner was the only sound that filled her long nights. For the past 7 years, Maya worked as a librarian at a university library. A job of quiet routine. No surprises, no noise, no life. But then, something started to shift. First came the unexplained anxiety. Then insomnia. Then the hallucinations. She heard women's screaming voices echoing in her head. She took sleeping pills nightly, but her mind stayed awake, like something was pulling it out of her body. She began missing work, telling herself she just needed a nap, but never waking on time. Maya's hair was long, frizzy, black, dry, and brittle, usually tied off-center or left loose in an exhausted mess. It looked as tired as she did. The final meeting at work was brief. Her manager sat across from her, fingers tapping the desk.
Maya, this is the third month your attendance has been below the minimum.
She just nodded, couldn't meet his eyes.
I know. I'm sorry.
But it didn't matter. The termination letter was already prepared. And just like that, 7 years vanished in a blink. From that day on, Maya's world began to collapse. Rent piled up. The fridge was nearly empty. She sold her belongings one by one, from earrings to her gaming mouse. She applied everywhere, but no one wanted someone recently fired. At night, she gamed until exhaustion, as if to numb the sadness. In the morning, she lay motionless in bed, staring at the ceiling. Wore the same stretched-out grey sweatshirt and faded leggings for days. Ignored messages. Avoided mirrors. She no longer existed in her own life. One evening, as the sky turned pale orange, Maya wandered the sidewalk aimlessly. Nowhere to go, no reason. Only a need to escape the walls. And then, she saw it. A rundown barber shop, with a cracked wooden sign swaying slightly. Barber shop. On the dusty glass pane was a handwritten note in blue ink. Help wanted. No experience required. Must be trustworthy. Maya stopped. Her heart pounded. Through the dusty window, she saw an old leather chair, a tarnished mirror, and the soft yellow light of a ceiling bulb. She pushed the door. A small bell chimed gently, ting-ting. An older man emerged from the back. He was in his 60s, white slicked back hair, olive skin, a face sealed and stern.
Hi, here for a haircut?
He asked. Maya shook her head.
No, I saw the sign.
Oh, about the job?
Yes, I have no experience, but I'm willing to learn.
He looked her over. Wrinkled clothes, messy hair, tired face. But something in her eyes made him pause.
What's your name?
Maya, I'm 40.
Have you ever worked in a hair salon before?
No, I used to be a librarian. I was recently laid off. But I'm organized. I'm punctual. I just need a chance.
He crossed his arms, looking up at her.
I'm Tony. This salon was here before you were born. My old assistant left town. I'm old. I can't clean by myself anymore.
So, do you still need someone?
Maya asked, barely audible.
You look like someone who needs a fresh start.
He replied.
I do.
She nodded.
Then come tomorrow, 9 a.m.
Then he paused, looked again.
It's 8, not 9.
Maya blinked.
You just said...
I've changed my mind.
He cut in, voice firm.
If you want this job, show me you can come early, not just on time. And listen, Maya, if you're not there by 8 a.m. tomorrow, don't come.
She nodded, throat dry.
I'll come.
And wear something nicer than this.
Glancing at her hoodie and worn leggings.
This isn't a homeless shelter. You don't need fancy clothes, just clean, neat, not sloppy.
That night, Maya didn't touch her laptop. No games, no notifications. She clumsily ironed her clothes, brushed her tangled hair until her scalp burned. She set 2 alarms. One on her phone, one on an old bedside clock. And for the first time in weeks, she fell asleep before midnight. N2. 7:55 a.m. The next morning, Maya stood outside the shop, clutching a forest green apron, wearing a pale pink blouse, a navy skirt, hair tied in a ponytail with a few strands sticking out. 7:58, Tony arrived. Said nothing, opened the door, she followed. Inside was unchanged. Dim, quiet. The scent of talc powder mixed with old wood. The leather chair gleamed under yellow light. A small radio buzzed faintly from a dusty shelf. Tony placed his keys on the counter, pulled open a drawer, and took out a stack of papers, 2 dense pages of printed text.
Before we begin, the contract.
He handed her a pen. Maya looked down. Her eyes skimmed the fine print. "There's a lot here," she whispered.
There's a lot here.
No time.
Tony cut in coldly.
No buts. I don't have time to procrastinate. I don't babysit.
Can I?
Decide.
I don't babysit. Make a choice. She looked at him. Her hand trembled. She glanced at the contract one last time, then slowly picked up the pen. Signed. Tony took the signed papers and placed them neatly in the drawer, then stared at her directly.
Sit down,
he said, pointing to the barber chair. Maya froze.
I thought today was just cleaning?
You think so?
Tony tilted his head.
My salon doesn't have cleaners. Only people who serve customers in the most proper way. And to do that, you need to know what it's like to sit in this chair.
I don't understand.
Her voice faded. Tony didn't reply. He grabbed the clippers from the wall, plugged it in, flicked the switch. Click. The hum vibrated low, cold, steady. Not loud, but enough to echo down her spine. Maya stood frozen, heart racing.
Sit down, Maya,
he repeated firmer this time.
You signed a contract. No negotiations?
He said, approaching.
No explanations? No one asked you what you wanted.
She took half a step back, but her legs wouldn't obey. Her hands were ice cold. She stared into the mirror, saw herself, frightened, hyperventilating. Tony stepped forward, placed his hand gently on her shoulder, pressed down. She sat. He placed the clippers at the center of her forehead. The buzzing touch made her flinch. Vrr. One long swipe from her forehead to the nape. Hair fell in clumps, heavy, tangled, damp.
Stop, please. I don't want to,
Maya whispered. Tony leaned in, voice like a breeze.
We just asked you to follow.
He continued. Each stroke a part of her past shaved away. A layer of resistance stripped. An identity smothered. When the clippers stopped, Maya had nothing left but a bald scalp shaved clean, flat-top military style. She didn't cry. Just sat, fists clenched on the chair, eyes locked to the mirror. Tony handed her a hand mirror.
Look closely,
he said. She looked. A new face, raw, unfamiliar. She didn't recognize herself.
Here's the template, Tony said.
Tony said.
Clean, no frills, no deviations. This is how you'll appear to your customers, every day. No nail polish, no lipstick. No personality, just function.
He removed the cape. Hair slid to the floor like feathers.
Get out,
he ordered. Maya knelt down. For the first time in her life, she gathered pieces of her own hair with bare hands and threw them in the trash. That was her first morning. That afternoon, a couple walked in. 15 minutes late. Tony said nothing, just pointed.
You're late. She's punished. Her head is shaved.
Shaved. Maya stood still. Tony handed her the comb. She understood. No more words. She approached, clipped the cape around the woman's neck, turned on the clippers. The woman closed her eyes, no resistance. The husband watched silently. After shaving both, Maya stood hands trembling.
Do you know why they let it be?
Tony asked.
Because they're afraid of you,
Maya replied.
Number.
He shook his head.
Because they want to be controlled. Like you. They're tired of making decisions. They want someone to tell them what to do. You're starting to understand.
That night, Maya didn't go home. Tony handed her the key to a small room in the back. Iron bed, thin blanket, a wall clock alarm. No mirror. No TV. No lock. The next morning, before 8, she was ready.
We need to perfect you,
Tony said.
What do you mean?
He raised a set of straight razors. Silver blades, peppermint foam, hot towels. Not just the head. Your entire body. Nothing should remain that distracts from function. No freedom, not even a single strand. Maya trembled, but didn't object. She just nodded. She was laid on a padded bench. Each part of her body lathered, shaved, and wiped clean. No words, no music, no sound. When done, Tony looked her over.
Now, you look like a soldier,
he said. She stood, uncovered, unashamed. Her eyes still. You'll need that strength, he continued.
Because from now on, you're no longer Maya. You're C-13. A functional entity. No resistance, no questions, no emotions.
Maya nodded.
C-13. I'm ready.
She had always lived with a sense of ease, maybe even a feeling of invincibility. Her days were filled with rhythm and familiarity. Mornings started with oat milk lattes, soft indie music playing in the background as she edited videos for her growing YouTube channel. In the afternoons, she might take long walks with her border collie named Bella, or lounge on the sunlit couch, texting her friends about the latest thrift store finds. She didn't work a 9-to-5 job. Instead, she flourished online, editing vlogs, filming beauty reviews, and making a day-in-my-life videos that made thousands of viewers feel like they truly knew her. Her life was curated, color-graded, soft, like a dreamy little bubble. She had a secret. She had been in love with him for over a year, her boyfriend, a former Marine, now a mechanic. He was her opposite in every way. He liked things simple, black coffee, classic rock, and honesty. His hands were always stained with engine grease, his voice steady and calm. They met when she got a flat tire at a food truck festival, and he offered to fix it right there on the spot. She liked the way he looked at her, not like a fan, but with deep, grounded attention. But over time, that attention began to feel heavy. She wanted freedom, and she crossed the line. And tonight, the truth had found its way back, but it had left a trail he had quietly followed for weeks. 3 weeks ago, his friend Jason, a loud but sharp-witted tattoo artist, mentioned something offhandedly.
Hey man, you ever heard of Leo Sutter? Drives a black convertible Mustang. Thinks he's some kind of gift to women.
Jason tilted his head.
Saw him last week with someone who looked a hell of a lot like your girl. Same hair, same laugh, and that white trench coat she wore when you picked her up at my shop. They were holding hands.
At first, he didn't believe it. Didn't want to believe it. Claire wasn't like that. She was emotional, maybe impulsive, but not a liar, not a cheater. But the seed had been planted. He started paying attention. She was glued to her phone, smiling too long at texts she wouldn't let him see. Her screen was always face down. She canceled plans for last-minute collabs that never showed up in any content. And then one day, he saw her leaving a riverside building. She said it was a shoot with a photographer, but he recognized the car parked outside, a black Mustang. The final thread snapped 2 nights ago. She left her iPad unlocked on the kitchen counter. A message popped up. I can't stop thinking about that night. Your hands, your mouth. I've never felt more alive. I wish I could fall asleep next to you every night. Photos from a hotel room followed. Her hair messy, his arm wrapped around her bare shoulder. The timestamp? Last weekend. She had told him she was shooting with a skincare brand. He didn't say anything. Not right away. He waited for her to come home that night, smiling, pretending everything was fine. She sat on the couch, dressed in an off-white sweater and pale pink shorts. Her braid hung loosely over one shoulder, a few strands curled against her cheek. She was popping strawberries into her mouth and said cheerfully,
"Want one?"
with a bright smile. He looked at her for a long time, then asked quietly,
"Who's Leo?"
Her face changed instantly.
"Leo?"
She echoed, forcing a smile.
"Oh, just the guy I did a rooftop shoot with back in February."
He didn't move. He said,
"Try again."
She fell silent, then started trembling.
"It was just one time,"
he whispered. He stepped closer.
"You slept with him while I was here changing your light bulbs, washing your damn dog,"
he growled. She jumped up, face pale.
"I was lonely. We barely talked anymore. I bought you a lens for your channel while you were wrapped around him in some hotel room?"
She shook, pleading. "Please. Everyone thinks you're this sweet, soft-voiced girl. The long hair, the cute outfits. You know what I think?" he said.
Walking over to a drawer and pulling out a heavy black clipper. "That hair is your mask, and it's the first thing to go."
She backed away. "You're not serious." "Dead serious." He pointed at the wooden chair she always used to film her videos.
"Sit down, or I'll tell everyone who you really are."
She hesitated, trembling, then slowly walked over and sat down, face pale as a ghost. He plugged in the clipper. It buzzed to life like a warning. He grabbed her braid and with one brutal motion, sliced it off. The thick braid dropped to the floor. She stared at it like it was a dead thing. He kept going. The back of her neck was now bald and glistening.
"Oh my God,"
she gasped, gripping the chair. Chunk after chunk of hair fell onto her sweater, her lap. He moved to the front, looked into her eyes. "That top part, where you keep the fake halo? Let's take that too." She whispered, "Please." "You said you were sorry. Prove it." He ran the clipper down the center of her scalp. Slowly. Her hair split down the middle. She let out a gasp, half cry, half breath. He kept going until the last strand was gone. Only a soft layer of stubble remained. She raised a trembling hand to her head. It's gone. All of it. Yeah, now maybe you can be real." She stood slowly, her face stripped bare, the sweater slid off her shoulder, her hands in shorts covered in fallen strands. The room was silent. He whispered, "Come with me." His voice trembled, like he already knew it would be the last time. She hesitated, then nodded. Everything, the old her, the curated image, now lay in silence on the floor. He led her to a small bedroom with faded floral wallpaper. The moonlight cast soft shadows on the worn carpet. They didn't need words. They weren't laying next to each other out of love, but from the raw aftermath of betrayal. His fingers ran across her bare scalp, shaking. "I'll stay tonight, but when the sun comes up, I can't promise I'll ever come back." She choked on her words. "Why? I thought we had something." So did I. But the truth shattered it.
The betrayal was silent. Her revenge was louder. Emily was 23, full of life and laughter. Her presence lit up every room she entered, and people were naturally drawn to her warmth, her easy smile, and her infectious energy. She was the kind of person who remembered birthdays, who offered her umbrella to strangers, who gave compliments without hesitation. She lived with her boyfriend, Nathan, in a cozy apartment nestled on the 3rd floor of a quiet building in the city. It was small, but filled with love, or so she thought. They had been together for a little over 2 years. Their lives had become deeply intertwined, shared toothbrush holders, a combined Spotify playlist, Sunday pancake rituals, and a collection of inside jokes that could make them laugh for minutes on end. They enjoyed cooking meals together, often experimenting with new recipes and laughing at their mistakes. Their tiny kitchen saw flour-covered counters, burnt toast, and celebratory wine after successful dishes. They danced in their living room to old records, sometimes barefoot, sometimes dressed up for no reason at all. They had long, thoughtful conversations late into the night about their dreams, fears, and plans for the future. From starting a dog-walking business to taking a road trip across the country, their conversations spun endless possibilities. But no relationship is perfect. And for Emily and Nathan, one topic always stirred tension: her hair. Emily's hair was her crown, long, golden blonde, and soft like silk. It cascaded down to her lower back in smooth waves. It shimmered in the sun and had a natural fragrance from the oils she carefully chose. She cared for it with devotion, following a precise hair care routine that included weekly masks, delicate brushing, and sleeping on satin pillowcases. She rarely ever wore it up, preferring the way it framed her face. It was more than a style, it was a piece of her identity. Nathan, on the other hand, had always preferred short hairstyles. From early on in their relationship, he made suggestions.
A bob would suit you.
He'd murmur as he twirled a lock of her hair between his fingers.
Or imagine how edgy you'd look with a pixie cut.
At first, Emily laughed these comments off. She knew he meant well and chalked it up to differing tastes. But over time, the comments became more frequent. When they watched movies, he'd point out actresses with cropped hair and make a remark. When they passed a salon, he'd comment on styles in the window. When friends changed their hairstyles, he made extra effort to compliment them. It never felt overtly cruel, but it wore on her, a quiet pressure that made her question whether keeping her hair long made her appear stubborn or vain. Eventually, the pressure began to wear her down. Nathan wasn't overtly pushy, but his constant nudges made her feel like she was disappointing him somehow. She found herself staring longer in the mirror, wondering what he saw that she couldn't. Was she clinging too hard to a version of herself she needed to grow out of? One night, after a casual dinner and yet another conversation about her hair, she gave in.
Maybe it's time for a change,
she whispered, more to herself than to him. Nathan looked up, surprised, then grinned.
Really? You mean it?
I'll make an appointment tomorrow,
she said softly, heart heavy. He was thrilled. She forced a smile. The week that followed was surreal. Emily walked through her days in haze, brushing her hair slowly in the mornings, taking extra time to feel its softness. She braided it before bed, fingers lingering on every strand. She tried to imagine herself with short hair, with a bob, with a pixie cut, but it never looked right in her mind. Still, she told herself this was for the best, that relationships were about compromise. She even found herself watching YouTube videos of dramatic makeovers, trying to convince herself that she could pull it off. But her reflection always pulled her back. Her long hair made her feel feminine, safe, powerful. The idea of giving it up left her feeling like she was about to lose a part of herself. The night before the appointment, Nathan went to take a shower. Emily stayed curled on the couch, scrolling aimlessly through her phone. Then his phone buzzed on the coffee table. Without thinking, her eyes flicked to the screen. A message preview popped up.
Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again.
Her heart sank. Cold dread flooded her chest. She picked up the phone, hesitating, but curiosity and fear pushed her forward. One tap unlocked a series of messages. Multiple women, flirtations, photos, plans. Her vision blurred, her breath quickened. She felt hollow, betrayed, furious. She read name after name, message after message, each one confirming the truth. He had been living another life behind her back. And then something shifted inside her. She didn't cry then. Instead, a sharp clarity overtook her. She placed the phone back down and went to bed, not saying a word. She stared at the ceiling for hours, heart pounding, mind racing. But somewhere in the stillness, a decision formed. The next morning, Emily walked into the salon with steel in her spine. The stylist, a woman with a friendly smile and lavender-streaked hair, greeted her warmly.
Emily, ready for the big chop?
Actually,
Emily said calmly,
I've had a change of heart. I want to shave it all off. Completely. Bald. And I want it dyed black.
The stylist blinked.
All of it? Are you absolutely sure?
Emily nodded.
More sure than I've ever been.
She was led to a chair, and a smooth black cape was fastened tightly around her neck. Her blonde waves spilled over the fabric like sunlight, gleaming under the salon lights. The stylist hesitated.
Your hair is stunning,
she said gently.
You don't have to do this.
I want to,
Emily said.
Please, just do it.
The stylist gathered her hair into a high ponytail.
One last chance,
she offered. Emily met her own eyes in the mirror.
Let's begin.
With a long, deliberate snip, the scissors sliced through the thick bundle. Emily felt an instant weight lift from her shoulders. The stylist handed her the severed ponytail. It looked like it belonged to someone else. She held it in her hands for a moment, then placed it gently in her lap. Then came the clippers. The buzzing filled the room as the stylist brought the clippers to her forehead and slowly ran them back across her scalp. Hair tumbled down the cape in golden heaps. With each pass, more of her head was revealed, pale, vulnerable, but undeniably hers. The stylist moved carefully, methodically. As locks fell and the shape of Emily's head took form, the sensation was foreign, but freeing. Tears welled up, then spilled silently down her cheeks, not from sadness, but from something deeper. Each stroke of the clippers peeled away more than hair. It peeled away doubt, pain, expectations, betrayal. She felt as though she was being reborn right there in the chair. When the clippers had done their work, the stylist switched to a foil shaver. She gently smoothed Emily's scalp, making it soft and clean. Emily closed her eyes and exhaled as the final vibrations buzzed across her skin. She reached up and touched her head. It was cool, smooth, alien, and powerful. Next came the dye. The stylist mixed a deep black and applied it slowly, massaging it into the scalp. The sensation was tingly, almost refreshing. Emily sat quietly, watching the dark color set in. Her reflection transformed. Her scalp shone under the lights, bold and unapologetic. She felt electric. When it was finally rinsed and dried, Emily looked at herself in the mirror. A completely bold, black-scalped woman stared back at her. Strong, unapologetic, free. She no longer saw the woman who compromised herself. She saw a survivor. She smiled. Back home, Nathan looked up from the couch as she entered. His jaw dropped.
What did you do to your hair?
He demanded. Emily calmly removed her coat.
You cheated on me. I saw the messages.
His face paled.
Wait, what? Emily, let me explain.
No,
Emily said.
I was about to change myself for you. I almost cut my hair to make you happy. But I realized I didn't need to prove anything to someone who didn't value me. So I shaved it all off. I changed. For me. And I'm done.
They talked. Or rather, he tried to talk. He begged, stumbled over excuses, apologized. He claimed the text didn't mean anything, that he loved her, that he was confused. But Emily stood firm. She listened, but her heart had already moved on. By the end of the evening, Nathan packed a bag and left. Emily stood by the window, one hand gracing the smooth curve of her head. The night air was cool, and she felt every whisper of breeze on her scalp. It tingled with sensation, like new skin exposed to the world. Alone now, but not lonely, she felt strong. She felt beautiful. She felt free. And in that quiet moment, Emily smiled.
Lena, a young French woman passionate about photography and cultural exploration, stumbled upon Alex, a successful American businessman, through social media. Their connection began innocently, with Lena leaving a comment under one of his photos featuring a sunset over a rooftop in Bangkok. He replied with a witty remark, and from there, a conversation blossomed. What started as casual exchanges quickly turned into daily chats, then long late-night video calls. Lena, often curled up by the window with a cup of tea, would talk to Alex for hours about art, travel, and the dreams she'd never dared to say out loud. Alex listened intently, always knowing the right thing to say. He spoke with a soft, steady voice that made her feel understood, even from thousands of miles away.
"You have the soul of an artist,"
Alex once told her, his voice warm through the screen.
You really think so?
She asked, blushing.
"I don't think so, Lena. I know so. You deserve to see the world with someone who truly sees you."
He sent her small gifts, a vintage camera lens, a notebook filled with quotes about travel. Even a delicate scarf, he said, reminded him of her. Lena's heart slowly opened. She began telling her friends about him, referring to Alex as someone special, the kind of person who just got her. Each day, she felt more certain. Maybe this was what love was supposed to feel like. But behind the glowing screen, far from Lena's world of art and dreams, Alex leaned back in his leather chair, a sly smile curling at the corners of his lips. To him, the game had just begun. He had found his next target, and she was already falling right into his hands.
One day, Alex invited Lena to travel to Cambodia, promising a wonderful vacation. When they arrived at Phnom Penh Airport, Lena hurried into a taxi that was parked nearby. But as soon as the taxi sped off, Lena suddenly realized she was being kidnapped. She saw Alex standing still, his eyes wide, surprised and confused as the taxi zoomed past. She tried to call him, but the signal was cut off. Fear began to spread in Lena's heart as she realized she was in an unfamiliar place. At the camp, Lena was stripped of all her personal belongings, from clothes to identity. She was handcuffed and shaved bald. She was given a number and a uniform. A cold, indifferent manager said,
"You're not Lena anymore. You're number 47. Your job is to deceive others to survive."
Lena was brainwashed, forced to listen to training sessions on manipulation and deceit every day, while the screams and cries of other victims echoed from neighboring rooms. Lena was forced to learn how to scam people over the phone, pretending to be a bank employee or a police officer, asking victims to transfer money. She successfully pulled off her first scam, tricking an elderly man into transferring money. But when she saw her victim, Lena couldn't bear the guilt and vomited, feeling suffocated inside. Memories of her family and life before haunted her, making her feel more and more alienated from herself.
A week later, Alex appeared at the camp. He mocked her when he saw her bald head, saying with a smirk,
"I got $5,000 to deliver you to these people."
Lena was stunned. Her heart sank as the betrayal settled in. She screamed in rage and rushed toward him, but two guards grabbed her arms and pinned her back. Lena shook her head, trembling. "No, you're the villain here." In response, Alex pulled out a photo of Lena's family and cruelly tossed it to the ground, stepping on it. "It's either you obey, or your family pays the price," he hissed. Lena collapsed to her knees, her hands clenched in fury and helplessness. But she didn't give in. That moment didn't break her, it lit a fire inside her.
That night, Lena pretended to be weak and was taken to the restroom, where Alex was drunk. She used a sharpened metal spoon to stab him to death while he was unaware.
Lena sneaked out of her cell in the dark, without a sound, only the sound of her rapid breathing blending with the silent night. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she dared not stop, not for a second. Turning around, she saw a middle-aged man with a scarred face, looking at her with a knowing and concerned gaze. "Get in the car," he whispered, pointing to the cargo area behind him. As the truck moved, Lena just sat still, feeling the jolt of every bump. Waves of emotion rushed over her, fear, tension, but also a faint hope that she could escape everything. Lena slowly drifted off to sleep, relaxing after the long chase. Suddenly, the truck came to a sudden stop. Alex, whom she thought was dead, suddenly appeared in front of the truck. Behind him, a group of people stood waiting. Alex ordered the search of the truck, but when the rear doors were opened, Lena was nowhere to be found. It turned out she had cleverly clung to the bottom of the truck. Unable to find anything, Alex still didn't want to let the truck go. He pointed a gun at the driver. The driver shouted, "Hold on tight." He pressed the button to set off a bomb, then drove straight into the group of people in front. The truck raced like lightning, ignoring the gunfire behind. After days of traveling, the truck stopped at the border. Lena and the driver crossed the border easily, where the streets of France were calling them. Lena closed her eyes, smiling for the first time in months. Although she had crossed the border and escaped, the real battle had just begun. At a human rights organization in Paris, Lena sat across from a reporter, the light casting on her face, but her eyes were full of determination. "Killing Alex wasn't because I wanted revenge," she began, her tone steady but filled with emotion. "It was to end this cycle. If I didn't do it, I'd forever be a victim in his game, and more girls would have to go through what I endured." She paused, clenching her hands. "The manipulators don't just exist in brainwashing camps. They are everywhere. In relationships, in work, in decisions we don't even realize. If I didn't fight back, they would continue to push people into darkness." Lena looked straight at the camera, her voice unwavering. "I'm not a victim anymore. I've broken that chain, and I will never go back." She stood up, her eyes full of determination, leaving the room without fear. She had not only escaped Alex, but she had also become the winner, cutting off the haunting ties of her past.